Us at this time. Yeah, well, our deadline is coming up right now in a couple of days. And I think you've just heard a lot of chatter about, what we're asking for is not sustainable for the business. And being on this side with Unrivaled, I know what it takes to run a sustainable business. So I think if they can't find a model that makes that happen, they need to put people in place who can, because we've proven
us right now. Yes, our deadline is in a few days. So I'm paying close attention to what she just stated. She asserts that it has demonstrated its ability to operate a sustainable business. That's the point of contention. However, how can a league that has only been in existence for one season, hasn't made any money, and is already losing its best players before the second season even begins be considered sustainable? She then cites that as evidence that the WNBA ought to comply with their CBA demands. Although there is a lot of confidence, the reasoning behind it is what needs to be dismantled. Then she says, the sport has grown so much. But hold on, she unintentionally reveals the truth.
It's grown so much, conversation around it has gone down. Oh no. The sport has grown so much that the chatter around it has gone, oh, you hate to see it.
The more popular the sport becomes, the less people seem to be discussing it. The WNBA just finished its most successful season ever. Record viewership, full stadia, media hype everywhere. And now, in the off-season, only a few months later, the excitement has completely subsided. However, she believes that the league should pay more because of this silence.
Why are you doing this to us? We don't like this type of nonsense. Just be straightforward with us. Be straightforward with us, please. So I think if they can't find a model that makes that happen, they need to put people in place who, you know what, let's put you in place. Let's put you, Brianna Stewart, Kelsey Plum, Brianna Turner, and that goes. Let's just put all you guys in charge. You guys run the WNBA. Ooh, wait.
Check out the internet's response immediately. 7 or 9 possessions were all that were needed. Yes, that's all. After a few plays, people quickly saw why they hadn't been excited about Unrivaled in the first place. The game seemed uninteresting. The audience was utterly silent. A high school JV squad would blush at the shooting percentages. The most well-known players in women's basketball either didn't sign up at all or are already preparing to leave.
Without you guys, with Sophie, without you guys. You guys do your own thing in this make-believe league, and WNBA will move on. Let me just say something about Unrivaled, because I watched about 7 to 9 possessions. I think I told you.
However, it appears that Napheesa Collier wants the WNBA to follow this paradigm. Things get complicated at that point. This comparison quickly breaks down for the following reasons. Unrivaled has no overhead expenses, no cross-country travel expenses, no arena leases in 12 separate cities, and no scheduling headaches with the NBA. It trains in the same building and plays all of its games in one location. TNT cameras are aimed at what is essentially an enhanced training camp. And for some reason, they refer to that as a sustainable business. Come on, that isn't merely a poor analogy. It is outright deceptive. And WNBA fans should be quite concerned about this following section. Napheesa Collier is more than a mere athlete. In reality, she is a member of the Players Association that is negotiating the new CBA.
Up shop. This is a pop-up league. Sustainable business in year 2. Good Lord. She sounds like someone taught her a few jargon keywords and thought they could pass her as an intelligent business. Oh no. With all due respect, you're only your second year of Unrivaled, so I highly doubt you know in depth what it takes to run a sustainable business. I'm sure at some point in the future that will resonate.
She is among those seated at the table attempting to determine what is just. Her entire perspective on what constitutes a sustainable business is derived from a mini-league that has only been in operation for 8 weeks. Operates entirely on private investors who are willing to lose money in order to appear helpful, and it takes place in a single building. They're calling on the WNBA to figure out a way to offer players 50% of earnings. That is crazy. This is why it's so important. Fans' perceptions of the matter are completely distorted when someone like Keir speaks things like this in public. It gives the impression that the WNBA is simply being frugal or withholding money. However, it's not so easy in practice. The WNBA manages enormous operating costs, operates in 12 markets, accommodates NBA scheduling, and maintains full-time employees throughout the year. None of that is addressed by Unrivaled. Not even near. People aren't buying the hoopla, based on what I've seen online. The response was swift and severe. Those who attended Unrivaled's opening night were dissatisfied. The action of the game.
Let me know. How's it Is Unrivaled even on tonight? I think it is. Are you going to be watching? Let me know. Are you not? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like the video, subscribe, that would mean so much to me. Nafisa Collier, come on, man. When you say stuff like that, it just...
Essentially the same as the WNBA from the previous season. Inadequate execution, missed shots, and a lack of interest to draw viewers in. They weren't given the revolution they were promised. With a different logo, it was exactly the same thing. There are numerous turnovers, careless plays, a low basketball IQ, and a total lack of enthusiasm. Online fans even claimed that tickets were being given away for free in order to fill the seats. The WNBA is expected to be forced to alter its whole corporate structure by this so-called sustainable model. Really, let's define sustainability. A fully sustainable company generates enough revenue to pay its expenses and provide a return to investors. But unparalleled, they are squandering investor funds with no indication of a profit. No one is watching the games that TNT is airing. Advertisers pay for exposure that they do not receive. What do you believe occurs when it's time for renewal? There won't be another line of sponsors. Billionaires who are prepared to lose money in order to seem to promote women's basketball are the driving force behind this entire enterprise. Furthermore, that is not sustainable. That's charity with a public relations twist. The enormous conflict of interest is the next topic that no one is discussing. Unrivaled was co-founded by Nisa Collier. She is a part of it, not merely a participant. This implies that even if the statistics obviously don't support it, she has a direct financial incentive to promote this league. In addition, she is currently assisting in the negotiations of the WNBA's new CBA, citing Unrivaled as evidence that greater pay is achievable. How can that not be a major conflict? In addition to sitting at the table and asking that the WNBA pay more, she is really competing with the league for players, media attention, and sponsorship money. That's crazy. Let's now dissect her real claim. According to Collier, if the WNBA can't figure out how to build a sustainable model, they should hire people who can because Unrivaled already proved it's possible. But let's take a moment to consider it. What has Unrivaled truly demonstrated? They have demonstrated that you can pay players handsomely for 8 weeks if you can get wealthy investors to accept losses indefinitely. They have demonstrated that you can obtain a TV bargain if you're prepared to accept a ridiculously low price. They have demonstrated that if you distribute enough free tickets, a tiny gym can be packed. That doesn't demonstrate true sustainability. In the meantime, the WNBA has existed for 28 years. That is over 30 years of enduring media upheavals, economic downturns, and changes in how people watch sports. They have created a long-lasting organization that provides stable employment for coaches, trainers, front office teams, stadium crews, and media personnel in 12 cities in addition to players. That is the essence of true sustainability. That is the essence of managing a legitimate business. Maintaining an annual balance between income and expenses. There is no need for a billionaire safety net. Unmatched, Omni is, on the other hand, essentially a pop-up league, a transient showcase that only exists because investors are prepared to take a chance on possible expansion. That's okay, but it's not the same as managing a major sports league. It's similar to saying, see, the restaurant's wasting money on rent, when comparing a food truck to a large restaurant chain. It simply doesn't make sense. Collier's remarks could not have come at a worse time. The WNBA recently concluded its most successful season to date. Ratings skyrocketed during Caitlin Clark's debut season. Fan interaction was at an all-time level, and arenas were sold out. After years of hardship, the league has at last gained momentum. However, rather of following that trend, players are threatening to boycott unless their CBA demands are fulfilled. And their proof is unparalleled. a league that hasn't shown any signs of long-term viability. The Players Association doesn't seem to understand that disconnect. They are placing all of their bets on a novel and dazzling idea that hasn't shown to be sustainable. In the meantime, the WNBA worked hard for decades to create something genuine and dependable. All of that progress could be eclipsed by hype that quickly fades if they are careless. The WNBA's enormous growth in 2024 wasn't the result of an unexpected surge in league popularity. It originated with Caitlin Clark. Her games attracted big sponsors, filled arenas, and increased TV ratings. People tuned in because of her. However, the numbers drastically decline if she is removed from the picture for even a few moments. That isn't actual growth. That is a complete reliance on one superstar. True sustainability means cultivating a fan base that loves the league as a whole. The court is illuminated by more than one player. Let's also discuss Caitlin Clark's location when Unrivaled called. Nah, I've got better things to do. The biggest attraction in women's basketball, the one player who truly makes a difference, said after glancing at Unrivaled. It's telling. After participating in the first season, Angel Ree is not participating in the second. Sabrina Ionesco is also not returning. Before it has even established itself, the league is losing star power. However, Nafisa Collier is present, attempting to give a sustainability lecture to the WNBA. Even the stars who could make it work can't be retained by her own league. It's a crazy double standard. Consider it. The players who could make Unrivaled legit are leaving you. Nevertheless, you have enough faith in that shaky setup to utilize it as a template for an established league that is 28 years old. The reasoning simply doesn't make sense. It's similar to boasting about your lemonade stand while disparaging Starbucks' business strategy. The fans are also not duped. After Unrivaled's opening night, the comments section told it all. Those who attended the game reported that the production felt more lifeless, the basketball was flat, and the atmosphere was lifeless. More akin to a practice session with commentary than a formal broadcast. They're not casual people. Diehards are what these are. Those who genuinely watch women's basketball games in the middle of January. If even they weren't impressed, how can you expect to establish an enduring audience? It was perfectly captured in one comment. This is comparable to MySpace discussing sustainability after just 1 year. Oh no. However, it is accurate. Unrivaled is still in the honeymoon stage, where all issues are concealed by investment funds. However, those investors won't start requesting a return until the third or fourth year. Wait when TNT is forced to defend paying broadcast costs for games that hardly anyone watches. Observing. Hold off until sponsors discover they're not receiving the publicity they agreed to. We'll be able to assess this setup's sustainability at that point. In the meantime, the WNBA has been working hard for almost 30 years. They have persevered through media shifts, market crashes, and the never-ending struggle for attention in a crowded sports industry. They've had to struggle for steady media attention, develop devoted fan bases in minor areas, and negotiate complicated revenue sharing with the NBA. All while keeping up a full-time infrastructure that provides year-round employment for hundreds of individuals. That is the essence of true sustainability. However, the Players Association's the argument is to argue, see, they figured it out, while pointing to a short-term, one-location league that runs for 8 weeks. That isn't a business strategy, come on. That is wishful thinking disguised as seriousness. Managing a true professional sports league that runs all year round is not the same as overseeing a summer endeavor financed by hype. This is the question that Nafisa Collier and the Players Association must truly address. Why is the WNBA even necessary if Unrivaled is genuinely sustainable? Why not just accept those greater salaries, play their full-time, and leave? Because the reality is straightforward. Unrivaled is incapable of doing that. A complete season cannot be funded by it. It is unable to pay players all year round. Furthermore, it lacks the stability, finances, and organization that the WNBA already offers. However, it's being promoted as the gold standard for sustainability in some way. That's nearly unbelievable how ironic that is. The Players Association is not merely disregarding reality if they continue to use myths as evidence of what the WNBA ought to be. They are placing a wager on a transient delusion for the future of women's basketball. This is the reality that nobody wants to acknowledge. The WNBA is the only reason Unrivaled exists. It's not a standalone revolutionary league. Players who already have consistent revenue and visibility from their WNBA contracts are paid for this 8-week side gig. Without the platform of the WNBA, Unrivaled wouldn't even have any well-known names to market if they didn't keep those sportsmen in the spotlight for the remaining 10 months of the year. Furthermore, Unrivaled was unable to attract any significant talent in the first place without WNBA salaries serving as a financial safety net. Let's just call it what it is. It's a parasitic connection disguised as evidence of a better business strategy. And that's precisely why Nafisa Collier's remarks struck such a chord. She is profiting off everything the WNBA has established, including its infrastructure, reputation, and audience reach, while simultaneously asserting that Unrivaled has demonstrated a superior approach. Biting the hand that feeds you and then claiming that it ought to have fed you more is like that. She is genuinely enjoying herself and consuming it as well, then whining about how small the WNBA's cake is. The owners aren't refusing to compensate players out of malice or for amusement. They have actual businesses. Each franchise must balance revenue and expenses over 12 distinct cities with varied economies. They're not merely competing with other women's sports for attention. They're simultaneously competing against the NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL. And despite all of that turmoil, they continue to work toward creating something profitable, long-lasting, and stable. That isn't being stingy. That's true sustainability. In the meanwhile, Unrivaled is an unproven company. It's a risk. Investors are wagering that if they combine all the greatest talent in one eye-catching location, they can elevate women's basketball to a high-end experience. Indeed, there is a chance that the gamble will eventually pay off. It might become self-sufficient in 5 years. However, it's still a money pit at the moment. It's not simply poor reasoning to use a 1-year-old, investor-funded, losing business as proof that the WNBA needs to reinvent its whole economic structure. It's pure propaganda. This is where things start to get really tense. The deadline for the new CBA is drawing near. The Players Association, backed by Collier and others, is requesting a 50% income share, arguing that the WNBA can afford it due to its unparalleled example. However, the league's owners claim that such a division is ineffective. Monetarily, to be honest, they have a point. This has nothing to do with greed. It has to do with surviving. In the midst of it all, fans are told that the WNBA is being cheap, but the reality is far more nuanced. The 2025 season could be in disarray if this negotiation fails, if there is a lockout, or if players refuse to play. And if that occurs, it will be due to the notion that Unrivaled's model in some way shown that greater compensation are feasible. However, what will happen if Unrivaled is unable to continue operating? Because, let's face it, Unrivaled will quickly fade when those investors finally lose interest and transfer their funds to the next big sports initiative. When it happens, the WNBA will continue to be present, because it is the essence of true sustainability. 28 years of consistent, relentless growth rather than 8 weeks of glittering hoopla and camera crews. That's the distinction between creating a legacy and following a trend. This is the actual query that all fans ought to be posing. Who do you have faith in? Nafisa Collier's business acumen was founded on either nearly 3 decades of the WNBA's demonstrated capacity for adaptation, survival, and evolution, or just one brief season of unparalleled success. Because that decision will determine whether women's basketball continues to expand steadily or fails due to unreasonable expectations. It's your time now. Turn off the sound. Do you genuinely believe that Unrivaled has demonstrated any sustainability? Or is it merely hype wrapped in investor capital that is soon to run out? And should players be permitted to negotiate the WNBA's CBA if they have financial interests in rival leagues? This topic is only getting started, so please share your opinions below.